Hi again, guys. So this is ride day 35. So 35 full days of riding from Miami Beach to LA, down through Baja, Mexico, then across from Baja to Mazatlan, then all the way across from Mazatlan across Mexico, down through Central America. Car's just going the wrong way up the street, but anyway, you get used to just about all of this as you go along, and it can be quite frustrating with the way everyone drives. As you know, it just seems to be, let's do what we want to do. So as you can see, it's wet, very wet, and you just get used to this. It's just madness, the amount of rain that I had on these days. All the gloves, the waterproof gloves, saturated. The other gloves saturated. Better off just taking the gloves off because it's just, it's just useless. So as you can see here, I've got to cross the road, and thanks for this car here just making it friggin' near impossible for me to do anything. There we go, and on I go. But this was a day. Have a look at this. So this is like 15 minutes further on, perfect and dry, maybe an hour, half an hour further on, perfect and dry, and then it rained again, and then it was dry. Look, the sky looks like everything's fine, and then 15 minutes later it comes over again. It was a mad day. I was like thinking, oh, this is perfect. I was looking up into the horizon thinking, oh, there's no more rain, and sorry, it doesn't work out that way. So this was one of the main roads, and Panama was the only country that I got a ticket in the whole way. I got a speeding ticket, and they were doing roadworks, and it was just one lane on each side. One lane on our side was closed. There's two lanes on the other side, and I was overtaking the trucks at 102 kilometres an hour. But where it said roadworks, everyone was doing it. Roadworks, it said 80 kilometre hour speed limit. And I had about 20 trucks to go past, and I overtook them. And even though there was no roadworks on our side happening at all, I could pass on the left side, but they had roadworks 80 kilometre hour speed limit. Overtook them, and there's a guy with a speed gun. So just really, really pathetic policing, just to raise money off citizens, not for safety, nothing. It was like 100 miles of these roadwork signs, and there was hardly any roadworks going on. It was just ridiculous. So yeah, I got done a $60 fine. I couldn't pay it because this was a Friday, and I think it was a Friday, and the only way to pay was to go into one of the offices, which was closed Saturday, Sunday, and Monday I was heading to the boat. So what chance have I got to pay it? You can't pay it online. Supposedly advanced country, but everything was just absolutely pathetic about the way they run the place. From the border crossing, just ticket here, go to there, go across the road, get here, go back to there, get that stamp, go up to there, just so pathetic. But anyway, the roads were pretty good aside from the rain, and so basically I had a long way to go on this leg of the trip to get to Panama City. So my main issue was always going to be my front tyre, which was really now starting to really cause me some issues. It was just deflating all the time, so I was stopping about every hour to put air back in the tyres. And I also started to find out I had a bit of an issue with my coolant. I think my coolant was getting pretty low, and the bike was starting to, when I was at lights, the bike was starting to heat up a little bit, so I thought, well, I've got to get to Panama City and get that looked at. Luckily I did. I'll talk about that a bit later. But just a lot of stops along the way. You're pretty much bypassing all the towns, one of those highways, but I had to get to Panama City get myself settled in and get everything organised for my trip across from Panama to Colombia. I was booked in on the Star Rat and was really looking forward to it. And so it's about a 300 kilometre trip, so about 100 kilometres is about 65 miles. So, about 180 miles, about 180 miles all up, a bit more than 180 miles to get there. And it was just all over the place with the weather. So I basically just hot-footed it. I had probably about an hour and a half of pretty good weather. I got slowed down obviously with the police stop, and the guy was just an arse. He just speeding, bad boy, all this sort of crap, and I was just like, yes sir, no worries sir, three bags full sir, just get on my way. But I did this whole trip. I did 30-something thousand kilometres, 20,000 plus miles, and one speeding ticket. I was speeding, but the thing about speeding is to be, if you're a conscientious driver, I'm not saying everyone is, so you've got to have some sort of rules about it, I suppose. But there was places in Baja, Mexico that said 60 kilometres an hour in open highway with no one around, nothing except for mountains and valleys and straight roads and that, and 60 kilometre hours was the quoted speed limit. I mean, just zero people were doing it, but they didn't police it, so that was pretty good. You didn't have to worry about it. The only thing you're worried about, and it doesn't matter where you are through Central and South America, is just sticking to speed limits through the towns. So I basically had a fair bit of a ride to get through to Panama. It was pretty boring sort of roads, but I had some music playing in my ears, and I've got a whole bunch of podcasts. My favourite podcast for the whole trip was A History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. Great podcast. I think about $14-15, but that's 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever of listening to a really interesting book from when we're born, and everything about our DNA, and everything about every discovery, all the major discoveries ever made, and it's just a fantastic listen to. The only thing is, if you're listening to music and you really want to hear the lyrics or hear a podcast, you have to have the visor down, because otherwise you can't hear it with the wind noise. But I was stopping every hour and then re-inflating the front tyre. Was getting, I started at about 30 psi and was going down to about 12-14 psi every. So you're losing about 15 psi an hour, which was now untenable. I couldn't continue riding like this. And I just wanted to get to Cartagena, where I was going to get the new tyres put on the bike, and also a new front rear rim. The front rim I wasn't getting. The front rim I wasn't going to be getting fixed, because I was given the advice that can be fixed at a service department, and they can actually fix that, because it just needs to be sealed properly, which I pretty much agree with, because the damage on the bike was very minimal. On the rim, I should say, was very minimal. It was if you looked at it, you wouldn't know, except for the fact that I'd pen marked with a white pen mark on it, like a solid, what do you call it, those permanent marker in white. I'd marked where we banged it back in, and it was about probably 2 inches, maybe 2.5, 3 inches in width, where it had come out and it buckled. It also meant, because of that, a little bit of an issue with the balancing on the front wheel, which didn't cause me any problems, even though after a couple of times I got it fixed, or supposedly fixed. Each time it was fixed, it still leaked a little bit. It was never, the whole trip, it was never truly fixed. At the end of the trip, basically I was getting, it was just going down slowly. So it was like twice a day I had to fill the tyres, which is a pain in itself, but it's something that I could tolerate. But this every 30 minutes, or I really should have been stopping every 30 minutes. And if it was on a lot of twisties, I probably would have had to. But I had pretty straight roads here. And then from here, once I got to Panama, 3 nights in Panama City, had to get a few things organised, some cables that I needed to get fixed up. One of the batteries, one of the mini batteries I had, I needed to change. Something had gone wrong with it, and I ended up getting a Samsung battery, fast charge battery, for my phones, because both my phones are fast chargers, and they found that's a huge bonus, I can guarantee you. If you're ever running low on juice, if you've got an iPhone, you can't do it. I don't know about the new iPhones, but the old ones you can't do it. And when people do reviews, they never give that the importance that it is. I mean, I can put my phone on the battery or power with the right cable, and I can get to 80% in like 20-30 minutes, 80% full, from zero. So it's pretty darn good. So I never had any problems with my phone with battery. It's an Android. I've got a Samsung Galaxy S7. I've got 2 of them. I've got one that I use on my bike for nav, and I've just basically got the phone, that one phone, and I suggest you do buy a phone for just your GPS and have your other phone handy for other stuff, because you don't want to be taking your phone out of the cradle. So if you can have 2 phones, I would highly suggest it. So I had the basic S7, and then I had the S7 Edge as my personal phone. Both lasted the trip magnificently. No issues with it. You've got the fingerprint reading, all that sort of stuff. Take great photos. The new S8 is out now, but I'm not going to buy that. I'll wait for the next version. I usually keep my phones for a few years, and I'll continue to use the basic S7 as my navigation for years to come. I've got nothing installed on it except for anything to do with my KTM. So I've got my Rever app, which I use for mapping on bike rides, and I've also got my, you can see it there on the left, and I've also got my, you can see the clouds moving in again now, and so the Rever app, I've got my KTM manual in there. I've also got I've got Google Maps installed, but everything else was just taken off that. I don't have Facebook or anything that can drain a battery, even if it's just installed. So I don't have any social media or anything like that. It's got all the basics on it. There's certain things you can't install unless you want to get right into the root of the thing, and I can't be bothered doing that. So yeah, now I'm probably about an hour outside of Panama City, and the weather's moved in, and I got wet again. Couldn't really avoid it. So basically what I was going to do, once I got to Panama City, do some shopping, relax. I'm staying in not a posh hotel, just a decent half, like 3.5, 4-star hotel. It was a big hotel by the waterfront on the Panama Canal. It was pretty cool, nothing fantastic. Wi-Fi was decent, not amazing, but decent, better than what I'd had in the past. So I was able to do some uploading and a bit of stuff and do some work for my clients. Panama City, it's a really modern city. It's a tax haven, so a lot of companies, US companies and international companies are there, making sure they don't pay any taxes in the companies they get all their money from. It's a pretty amazing thing. There's some pretty cool spots there. They've got the Bridge of the Americas, which is a pretty cool bridge, and I've got a video of that as we go on. And then some really cool little places around. So every day I went for a ride and had a look around and did took some photos, and had lunch somewhere different every day. Then just got back and did some work. So the Monday morning we were due to get on the boat, the Star Rat, and I'd already met Eric and Onor and a couple of other people along the way. And we kept in touch there, and we're all going to meet on Monday morning outside the hostel where a lot of the riders were staying. So we'd organised a little bit of a get together on the Monday morning, and in the end we ended up catching up with all the other riders that were riding there, and we stopped off, and so it was a pretty good experience. That'll be coming up in the next video. It's only a short video, that one, but it was a pretty cool experience. So the tyres that I'm using, I'm going to talk about tyres now. I've got the Heidenau 2K60s. Really good tyres. Some people had some issues in wet weather, but I think mainly at high speed. I never had issues in wet weather. I mean, obviously I had issues with the deflation on the front from the front rim, but that had nothing to do with the tyres. And I found that I'll talk about that on the next video, where I had some real issues getting to the boat because it was just getting so low. I think I got down to about 10 psi. And you've got a really hard rear tyre and a really soft front tyre. You basically, the bike basically really wants to wash out on the front quite a bit, so it was a really nervy sort of ride, and especially because it was really high, steep little mountains and a really sort of rough road with little potholes here and there. And on the way there, one of the guys came off their bike. He was a little bit inexperienced, but I could see even with everything going well, it would have been, or could have been, an issue for any one of us riders there. It was pretty tough riding because you'd go right down a steep hill and then have basically a U-turn back up. I think you call them switchbacks or something like that. So I always try to get away from the trucks because you just get a whole heap of spray behind up in front of you. But it was I used Panama City as a little rest spot and just getting everything ready for my trip across on the Stale Route boat. Did some shopping. There's some really modern shopping centres and stuff like that. US dollars currency there, so you can use your US dollars. Pretty expensive sort of city compared to the others, but it's a pretty cool place. Definitely worth visiting, but not somewhere where I think I'd like to go back there again. I didn't check out any of the off-roading there and stuff like that. I assume it's pretty cool. There's a lot of mountains and that around. The Panama Canal is pretty cool as well. A lot of ships coming in and out. A lot of activity at night across on the water, so it's pretty cool. I had a balcony overlooking that. As you can see, the weather was pretty rough. And the thing is, it just came down and you just headed up with just massive downpours. And then it would be clear for a little bit, and then you'd get more downpours, and so it was a pretty wet and sorry riding day. And I was glad to finally get to Panama, and basically when you do these sort of stretches, you feel really good about yourself. You've done another big long stretch, and my big first point was getting to the bottom of Baja. The second was getting across Mexico. The third was getting all the way down here to Panama. I probably did it in about 15 days when I get there. So I'm getting out of the rain here. This was just getting ridiculous. Can't really tell because the camera's pretty darn good. But I'm just trying to get everything organised. Look where they're looking at my mapping, and that's the thing too with your phone. These are waterproof phones, so you can see that we've got my ride going. I'm just pausing it there. But that's on the Rever app there, and the problem was that it was getting wet, and you can see I've got the cover on it, so I just kept it in there, and what was happening was the phone was getting a little bit playing a little bit up because all the water on the front of it. It's water resistant, so that's not going to be a problem. But what do? I get my I'm going to use this as the app. Pretty clever, hey? off I go again. So yeah, I swapped the phones over then. I can't remember doing that, but so what was happening was the water was getting on top of it, and it was like pressing a button. So when it was raining heavy on it. But as you can see from this, if I had a GoPro, you wouldn't be able to really see anything. The thing with the drift, it actually, because the lens, it's all waterproof, and it's not. Look, if it's really pouring with rain, I used to unplug it and turn it off because the battery would actually get wet, even though it's supposed to be water resistant. The main part of the camera is, but if it just rains and rains and rains, there's water going to get in there, and what happens is the battery swells and you can't get the battery out. So I started with about 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 batteries for it, and a couple of third party ones, and I think 2 or 3 of them ended up going dead over the trip. So it's one of those things where, I mean, you'll see any of the other adventure riders when they've got their cameras and stuff like that. They've always got lots of batteries. The problem is, with a lot of batteries, it ends up adding a lot of weight. So you don't think it does, but I've got 2 TG trackers. I've got the drift on my helmet. I've got the Samsung Gear 360. I've got 2 GoPros, all of which have got 4 or 5 batteries each. So you put all that together, there's at least 1 kilo there. Just everything ends up adding up. And so if you can, like I had back in Miami, I had a care package of all these little odds and ends that I thought that I'd need, ready to get shipped to me wherever I wanted to get it shipped to, like by DHL or UPS or whatever, FedEx, to a FedEx office or anything like that. In the end, I didn't need it. I had a friend who came down and who sent it to me, and when I was in Cartagena, so it wasn't that big of an issue for me. But if you don't want to carry the weight, have a care package of someone at home with it addressed to you, and all they've got to put is the city and state, country, and the actual address, and then take it to a FedEx place, and then send your stuff back. It's a good idea to send stuff back anyway. That stuff that you're not using, just put it in a box and send it back. I'm still waiting on one package that I sent from Buenos Aires, a month later, because it had batteries in it. It's so ridiculous. Like, I paid the money. Actually, that was from Santiago, Chile, so that's like 3 months ago. I'm still waiting on it because I had to get somebody to go, and they wouldn't ship it because it had batteries in it, like tiny little friggin' batteries. So I got someone to go in there and remove the batteries and then ship it again, but I still haven't got it yet. But yeah, so so with the cameras, you just got to basically take what you need with you, get the backup cables, all that sort of stuff. Maybe have a care package back home of all new cables to be sent to you, because you're going to find it very hard to get anything. You'll be able to get any GoPro stuff. They're pretty much everywhere in the major cities, but any other sort of, like the drift goes, nothing anywhere. So that's a bit of a downside of the drift company, and plus they won't even send them to you. I tried to get Drift to send me some microphones to Colombia, and I'd written to them about the issues. This is coming into that's Panama City there. I wrote to them about the issues on Instagram, and I actually wrote something about Drift actually and tagged them, and then they responded. A really helpful girl responded on Instagram saying, "Oh, just give us the address and we'll send them to you." And that took about 2 weeks to organise to get what I wanted shipped, and then I said I'll pay the money, and then I got a message from one of the directors of Drift saying, "Oh, unfortunately we cannot ship to Colombia." And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. But people ship to Colombia every day. It's just effort. We've got the Drift Ghost 4K coming out. We're very busy, and unfortunately we cannot ship to Colombia. So basically what I had to do was order it from them, get it delivered to somewhere in Miami, and then to a friend in Miami, and then a friend in Miami ships it to Cartagena. I mean, how ridiculous is that? That we can do it individually. So all it would have taken from them, being a small company. This is the Bridge of the Americas, by the way. Really cool looking bridge. I did a 360 video of this as well. You can go and have a look at. But really, this is Panama City. This is one of the slum areas. if I can do it, they could have done it. It just was a little bit of effort from them. There's the Bridge of the Americas again. Just a bit of effort from them, and they could have done it, but it's just in the couldn't be bothered basket. And that's a problem with Drift, and a real problem for their company is they really need to be going that extra mile for, you know, because I would have written about it, saying how fantastic it was that they did that, but in the end they just didn't. And they're a small company, and their major competitors, you know, they probably wouldn't do it either. So you have to differentiate. I still like their camera, so, you know, despite their poor customer service, the girl on Instagram was fantastic. The rest of the team pretty terrible. You know, and even after I said to them, you can't be serious. I mean, anyone can ship anywhere. Just all you have to do is put in a package, address it, and then send it to me. I'll pay up front for it. So what happened was, here's the guys here, great guys at KTM Panama City, and they actually did it for free. I bought them some drinks and that. They did it for free, where they actually they fixed my coolant up and refilled my coolant. So they were fantastic, those guys. It took me about an hour, and I got a nice photo with the guys. Really cool bunch of guys. Seemed to know what they were doing. Don't know if I think they told me they'd sold one of my bike there, but mainly the 1190s were selling there. That's all. But they had there's two offices. One's the service department, and then the other one's the it's just an office for KTM, but they don't actually sell anything. So you've got to make sure if you've got a KTM, you go to Panama City, you look up the right one. I went to the wrong one first and ended up there. But yeah, it's a pretty cool city, and lots of really cool drives around the city with really good views. There's about 4 or 5 different directions you can go. There's a lot of traffic once you get into the slum area and stuff like that, which I like going through and getting some photos. That's the view at night on the Panama Canal. I think we've got a couple of other ones there. Sunlight, some of the islands off the Panama. That's coming into the Panama there. That's when I first arrived at Panama City. So yeah. Anyway, questions or comments below, guys. Thanks for chatting.